and welcome back to another B.Hooked crochet video tutorial. I'm your host Brittany, and in this lesson we're going to be discussing and I'm going to be demonstrating how to do the traditional granny stripe shawl. Now this is a special request that came through, and I actually really like the idea of doing a shawl with this pattern. Now I am going to be using Red Heart Boutique Treasure yarn. I really like this stuff. It has a very pretty variegated colorway, and there are several as well. If you would like to use the same yarn as I am in this demonstration, this is Portrait, the colorway. And this yarn recommends that you use a size 8mm or an L size crochet hook. So you also need that. And in addition, you're going to need some scissors and a darning needle to weave in your ends. Now you can find the instructions for this tutorial available on my website, and I will leave the link to that post in the description below. So go ahead and gather your supplies and we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing we needed to do to get started with this pattern is create a slip knot. And to do so, we are just going to take the tail end of our yarn, wrap it around the index finger of our non-dominant hand 2 times, coming towards you, and we're just going to take this back strand, pull it over the front, and pull the front strand up and over, and then just kind of tighten that knot and insert your hook and tighten up your slip knot. Now this pattern is worked essentially from the center of the shawl outwards. So to start that, we need a little bit of a foundation. Then the first probably 3 or 4 rows, it's not really going to look like much of the granny stripe pattern, okay? But the more you build on it, the more it'll start to look like the traditional granny 3 double crochet clusters together. So from here at our starting point, we want to chain 4. Okay, and now we're going to form a ring. And I promise you we are not working in rounds, but we do need to start off with a circle at first just to get the overall shape. Okay, so the way we form a ring is we're just going to insert our hook into the first chain. We're going to yarn over and we're just going to slip stitch that together. And then from here we have created our ring. And now at this point it doesn't look like much, but if you take your fingers and pull the strands together, you can see that center ring here that we need to work in. And I like to just put that on my middle finger so I can kind of hold on to it for later. Okay, now with that being said, what we need to do is start off the foundation for our triangle, and it's not going to look like your typical granny square pattern at first, or the granny stripe in general. We're actually going to have groups of 4 double crochets on the edges, and everywhere else we're still going to have groups of 3. So go ahead and chain 3, and that's going to count as 1 double crochet of 4. And for this second row that we're working on, we're basically just gonna have 2 sets of 4 double crochets. So with this counting as 1, go ahead and double crochet 3 more times. And to do that, to do a double crochet, just yarn over, insert your hook into the center of the ring, and then yarn over and pull up your loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. And that is how you do the double crochet. Now go ahead and do that 3 more times. So like I said, we want a total of 4. Okay, and since that chaining of 1 counts as a double crochet, I have added 3 more, and there we've got our set of 4. And now we're going to chain 1 to start off the next group. Okay, we're always going to chain 1 in between our groups to give us enough space to move on to the next side. So go ahead and double crochet 4 more times. You'll yarn over and insert your hook, pull up your loop, so you've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Now we're going to complete that same stitch 3 more times. So we want a total of 4. Okay, and there we go. That is the end of row 2, and as you can see, it kind of is at this point starting to look like a triangle. So if you look at it this way, this is the point of the triangle, and we're just going to keep on adding in this direction all the way around. So now let's go ahead and get started on row 3. Starting off on row 3, as I said before, we're always going to have a group of 4 double crochet just on these end pieces. Okay, and that's just to help maintain the pattern. So we're going to chain 3, and we're going to turn our work. Okay, so we're turning it in the direction like we're flipping a book page. And now we're going to be working 3 more double crochets into the same stitch where this chain 3 is coming from. So you can see from this angle pretty good where we need to work. We need to work into this stitch right here. So to double crochet again, make sure you yarn over and insert your hook into that stitch. Okay, and work your double crochet and do that a total of 3 more times. So your chaining of 3 is counting as 1, and then you'll double crochet 3 more times into that exact same stitch. And now what we need to do, since we are coming up on the point at this point in the pattern, we're going to chain 1 to give us enough room to get there. Now we're going to form the corner, and again we're increasing, so this is going to look a lot like the corner of a granny square, and essentially all we're doing is creating half of a granny square. So treat this just as you would a corner, and we are going to double crochet 3 times into the point, so into that gap space that we've created there. Just put your hook directly under and double crochet a total of 3 times, and then we're going to chain 1 again, and we're going to put 3 more double crochet into the same exact space. Okay, and that's how we are increasing the point of our shawl. And now, just like before, we need to chain 1 in order to give us enough space. And now we're going to work our last 4. We're doing 4 double crochets this time because we're at the end. And we're going to work it into the chain that we've created. Since this was a chaining of 3 from this row, we're actually going to have to work into the chain. And so you basically just want to count to the 3rd one. Now you can see right here I've got my first chain, and right here is my 2nd, and my 3rd is right here on top. And so I'm going to double crochet 4 times into that space. And it should look just like this. Okay, so just double crochet a total of 4 times, and that will finish off row 3. Okay, now if we look at it from this point, it looks a lot more like a triangle, doesn't it? So it's pretty cool how quickly it takes shape. And so we're just going to keep on building from here. Starting row 4 is exactly the same as the rows previously. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to flip our work, and then we're going to put 3 more double crochet into this very first stitch, and as you can see, it's right there. Okay, we're going to put our hook into that stitch and work 3 more double crochets. And now we need to chain 1. So we're always chaining 1 in between these groups of double crochet, and now we jump across and find this gap space here, and that's where we're going to put our next set of 3 double crochets. So you don't actually have to work these into the chain, you just go directly under. Just put your hook directly under and work around the chain rather than in the chain. Okay, and now we chain 1. And then now we've come up to the point, and we're going to treat this exactly the same as we did the previous row. We're just going to double crochet 3 times. And we're going to chain 1 and then put 3 more double crochets into the same spot. And now we've effectively increased our shawl to make our triangle a little bit bigger, and we've still maintained our corner there. And then from here, we're starting to work down the other side now. So we're just going to chain 1, and we're going to put 3 more double crochet into this gap space here. So working around the chain, create 3 double crochet. And chain 1. And now just like before, we're working into a chain now. So count out your chains, and you want to put 4 double crochet into the 3rd chain that you created. And this is exactly like we did from the previous round. Okay, and that finishes off row 4 here, if you count the round there. And as you can see, it's starting to look more like the traditional granny pattern now that we've built on it a little bit more. And essentially that's our repeat. It's very simple, it's very easy, and it should work up pretty quick, especially if you're using the same yarn as I am, because this hook, you know, it's pretty large, so it should work up pretty fast. So we'll go ahead and jump right into row 5. To start off row 5, go ahead and chain 3. That's going to count as a double crochet, and turn your work. Now you're going to work 3 more double crochets into the first stitch, just like the previous rounds. I just love this yarn. This colorway is so cool. Okay, now we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to find our first gap space, which is right here, and we're going to work 3 double crochet into that space. Now chain 1, find your next gap space, which is right here, work 3 double crochet into that gap space. Now chain 1 again, work 3 double crochet. Now we're in the point, so work 3 double crochet, chain 1, and 3 double crochet. So I've got my 3 there, chaining 1, and I'm putting 3 more double crochet into the same space. Now we'll chain 1, work down the other side, so find your next gap, put 3 double crochet into the gap space, now chain 1, find your next space, put 3 double crochet, now chain 1, and just like before, find your very third chain there. So we've got 1, 2, and 3, and then put 3 double crochet right into that chain. Take that back, actually. We're going to be working 4 double crochet into this chain, okay? We want a group of 4. So we want the groups of 4 only on the ends, okay? And that concludes row 5. And I will walk you through one more row, and essentially, as I said before, this is the pattern repeat. We're just going to continue working in this exact same manner, basically until the shawl is the size that we want it. Now, I'm going to leave the sizing up to you. I will leave the final dimensions for my shawl, and you can find that on the post with this pattern. But just know that this is a pretty versatile pattern. You can make it as big or as small as you want. If you're making a child size, you know, obviously you're not going to have to use as much. And that's also why I didn't really say exactly how much yarn you're going to be using at the beginning. So I'm going to be making a size that's for a small adult or somebody who would wear a small. And so I have 2 skeins on hand of this stuff. And so I plan on probably using, you know, maybe half of it. But like I said, I'll include all of that final information in the post, and we'll pick back up here on row 6, and then I'm going to set you free and we will go ahead and continue working up our shawl, and then I'll come back and discuss how to finish up. To start off row 6, we're just going to chain 3 and turn our work. And then we're going to work 3 more double crochet into this first stitch, just like before. Now that gives us a total of 4. Okay, and then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to jump across to this next gap space, and we are going to double crochet 3 times. And then chain 1, locate your next gap, and put 3 more double crochet into that gap space. Chain 1, put 3 more double crochet into the next gap space. Chain 1. This brings us to the point. Okay, work your point just like the others. Put a group of 3 double crochet, chain 1, and put 3 more double crochet all into the same spot. Chain 1, 3 more double crochet. Now chain 1, starting down the other side now, double crochet 3 times into that first gap space. Chain 1 again, 3 double crochet into your next gap space. Chain 1 again, look at your next gap and put 3 double crochets. And now we've come to the edge, so just like before, put 4 double crochets into the third chain. So if you need to count them, we've got 1 right here, 2, and then 3. And just double crochet 4 times. Okay, now at this point you're probably getting pretty comfortable with this pattern. We know what to expect. We know pretty much everything that we need to do to make it to continue to grow as far as we need to. Okay, so at this point go ahead and pause your video and continue crocheting along row by row just as I've demonstrated. It's going to be exactly the same, it's just going to be getting a little bit bigger. And when you have made it the size that you need to fit your needs, then go ahead and come back and I will show you my finished product and I will show you how to bind off and we'll weave in our ends. Okay, so I have finished making my shawl the desired length and I have actually worked 27 rounds and that measures approximately 22 inches from the top of the shawl to the very point and about 50 inches from corner to corner. And this would probably fit a small adult, so if you were looking to make something for someone that size, this should be perfect. And I used 2 full skeins and about 3/4 of another. So if you're trying to get an idea of about how much yarn you'll need, then that should give you a pretty good idea. And now, as I said before, this design is very customizable. You can make it however big or however small you'd like. So now that I've come to the end here, I just wanted to come back and show you how to finish binding off, and then we'll weave in the ends, and essentially we're completely done at that point. So I'm just going to put my hook down. I'm going to leave myself a tail that I can weave in. It's about 6 inches long or so. And I'm just going to pull that tail through the loop that was on my hook. And now I'm ready to weave in my ends. So I am going to pick one side. I try to keep it consistent to put my, to weave in my ends on one side. So with this, they both look exactly the same on the front and the back. So there's no defined right and wrong side. And now what I like to do is just thread my darning needle, and I like to find the densest portion of the pattern to weave in the ends. That way it makes it a little less likely to see. And so there's really no clear defined right or wrong way to weave in your ends. It's just something that comes with practice and a little bit of patience, honestly. This is generally my least favorite part of any project, but as you can see, I'm just kind of working these through the dense portions of each of these clusters. And another thing that's good to do is to work back and forth. So like for here, on this example, I am going to insert my yarn in that direction, and then I'm going to go back through the same stitches in the opposite direction, and I'll do that a couple times, and that should keep it from working its way out. Okay, so once you feel like it's good and secure, just go ahead and cut your tail. And I have a few other tails where I had to start a new skein of yarn, so I'm just going to go back through and weave in those ends as well. Here's another portion right here, and I just kind of tied these off as I was going so that it was secure. So I'm just going to tighten that knot and then just work this exactly the same. Just thread my darning needle, and I've got a pretty long tail here. I don't think I need to weave in that much, but I just kind of pick a little section of stitches to go through and just kind of work it in around, and then just kind of come back going the other direction, and just do that a few times to make sure it's nice and secure. Once I'm comfortable with it, just cut off your tail end and keep moving on. So that's essentially all you have to do. I'm going to take a break here, and I'm going to weave in the rest of these ends, and we'll be finished up with this project. Alright, here is my finished shawl. As I said, this measures about 50 inches from corner to corner and about 22 inches from the tip to the very bottom corner. And so the pattern that's available on my blog for free is going to be specific for these dimensions. But as I said before, please know that this pattern is easily modified to make a smaller shawl or to make a larger one, and essentially you just bind off when you're done. You know, if you're making a shawl for a child, then you probably will only have to go maybe 15 to 20 rounds or so, and if you're wanting to make a really big shawl that's really going to cover you, then you may want to go 35 to 40 rounds. So you pretty much be the designer here, you be the judge. And as I said, also you can use any type of yarn for this project. I was using Red Heart Boutique Treasure line and the colorway Portrait, and as you can see, it's really cool. The texture is really neat, and I love the colors. It works pretty well with this pattern. So please share your work with me. I'd love to see it, especially since this pattern can be modified. You know, you can be very creative with it. So you can share your pictures with me on my Facebook page, and that is facebook.com/BHookedCrochet. And if you're on Instagram, you can leave a picture with the hashtag B.Hooked or hashtag B.HookedCrochet. And those are the two best ways to share your work with me. On behalf of B.Hooked Crochet, I'm your host Brittany. This concludes the tutorial for